The molten landscape of Mustafar stretched out like a wound in the galaxy, its rivers of lava casting a hellish glow across the jagged terrain. The air was heavy with sulfur and ash, a choking haze that clung to everything it touched. Within the industrial complex, perched atop a cliff, Anakin Skywalker stood amidst the aftermath of his fury. The bodies of the Separatist leaders, Newt Gunray, Wat Tambor, Sir, and others, lay scattered around him, their lifeless forms a grim testament to the power he had embraced. His hands still trembled from the exertion, his lightsaber hilt warm against his palm. His eyes, once a vivid blue filled with hope, now glowed with the sinister yellow of the dark side. He had done it. The war was over, the Separatists crushed, just as his new master, Darth Sidious, had promised. Peace would reign as under the new empire, an order forged by his hands. Yet beneath the surge of triumph a whisper of doubt gnawed at him. At what cost had this victory come? He pushed the thought aside, letting the cold embrace of the dark side drown it out. A ripple in the Force snapped him from his reverie. He turned, his breath catching as a sleek Naboo starship descended onto the landing platform, Padme's ship. A storm of emotions churned within him, hope that she had come to stand by his side, fear that she had come to reject him. He strode toward the platform, his black cloak billowing in the hot wind. Padme Amidala emerged from the ship, her elegant robes a stark contrast to the desolate surroundings. Her face was etched with sorrow and resolve, her dark eyes searching his. "Anakin!" she called, her voice trembling yet firm. "I heard what you've done. Please, tell me it's not true." Anakin stopped a few paces from her, his expression hardening as the dark side fueled his resolve. "Padme, I've brought peace to the Republic. I've ended the war." "At what cost, Anakin?" she cried, stepping closer. "You've killed younglings, betrayed the Jedi. This isn't you." "You don't understand," he snapped, his voice rising with anger. "The Jedi were corrupt. They were plotting to take over. I did what I had to do to save the galaxy." Padme recoiled, fear flickering in her eyes. "Anakin, please, come back with me. We can leave all this behind. Think of our child." "Our child?" The word struck him like a blow, the yellow in his eyes flickering as a shard of his former self broke through. "You're pregnant?" "Yes, Anakin. We're going to have a baby. Don't let our child grow up without a father." For a moment the darkness wavered, and Anakin felt the pull of love and longing. But the dark side was relentless, sowing seeds of suspicion. "How do I know this isn't a trick? How do I know you haven't turned against me?" "Turned against you?" Padme's voice cracked with disbelief and pain. "Anakin, I love you. I've always loved you." But the whispers of betrayal grew louder, drowning out her pleas. "If you love me, why did you bring him here?" he demanded, his gaze shifting past her. Padme turned, gasping, as Obi-Wan Kenobi stepped onto the platform, his Jedi robe singed by Mustafar's heat. "Obi-Wan? What are you doing here?" "I stowed away," Obi-Wan said, his tone calm but his hand resting on his lightsaber hilt. "I needed to see Anakin for myself." Anakin's rage erupted like a volcano. "You brought him here to kill me!" he roared, his voice a guttural snarl. "No, Anakin, I didn't know," Padme protested, reaching for him. Blinded by fury, Anakin raised his hand and Padme clutched her throat, gasping as the Force tightened around her. Her eyes widened in terror, pleading with him to stop. "Padme!" Obi-Wan shouted, igniting his lightsaber and rushing forward, its blue blade casting a stark light against the fiery backdrop. The sound of Obi-Wan's voice pierced through Anakin's haze of anger. With a shudder, he released his grip, and Padme collapsed to the ground unconscious. Horror flooded him as he stared at her crumpled form, her chest rising faintly. "Padme!" he cried, dropping to his knees beside her. Obi-Wan approached, his lightsaber held low, but ready. "Anakin, what have you done?" Tears streamed down Anakin's face as he cradled Padme's head. I didn't mean to. She betrayed me." "She loves you, Anakin," Obi-Wan said, his voice soft yet heavy with grief. "She came here to save you." Anakin's gaze darted between Padme's still form and Obi-Wan's steady presence. The dark side screamed at him to attack, to destroy the Jedi who stood in his way. But as he looked at Padme, helpless and vulnerable, a spark of his old self resisted. He couldn't lose her. Not like this. "I won't fight you, Obi-Wan," Anakin said, his voice breaking. "Not here, not now. Padme needs help." Obi-Wan's eyes widened in surprise. He had braced himself for a battle to the death, not this plea for mercy. After a tense moment, he deactivated his lightsaber and clipped it to his belt. "Then let's help her," he said, kneeling beside Padme. Together they lifted her gently and carried her back to the ship. Anakin's hands trembled as he supported her, his mind a whirlwind of guilt and fear. Inside, they laid her on a medical cot, and Anakin reached out with the Force, probing her condition. Her life force was faint but steady, a fragile thread he clung to. "She's alive!" he whispered, relief mingling with his anguish. "She needs proper care," Obi-Wan said, moving to the cockpit. "We'll take her to a medical facility." Anakin nodded, sitting beside Padme and taking her hand. He closed his eyes, drawing on the Force to stabilize her. But something unexpected happened. Instead of the cold, raging power of the dark side, a warm, gentle energy flowed through him. It responded to his desperation, his love for her weaving around her like a protective shield. He gasped, startled by the sensation. It was the light side, a part of him he thought lost forever. Obi-Wan glanced back, noticing the faint glow around Anakin's hands. "Anakin," he said, awe in his voice. "That was the light side of the Force. There's still good in you." Anakin didn't respond, too focused on Padme, but Obi-Wan's words lingered, a crack in the armor of his darkness. Before they could lift off, the ship's alarms blared. A Republic cruiser loomed in the sky, its landing craft deploying clone troopers to the surface. "Palpatine's forces," Obi-Wan said grimly. He must have sensed something was wrong. "They're here for me," Anakin growled, the yellow flaring in his eyes. "Or to tie up loose ends," Obi-Wan replied. "We can't let them take us." As the ship shuddered under blaster fire, Anakin and Obi-Wan exchanged a glance. Despite the chasm between them, survival demanded unity. "Take the controls," Anakin said, standing. "I'll deal with the clones." Obi-Wan nodded and piloted the ship, while Anakin moved to the hatch. Igniting his lightsaber, its blue blade humming to life, he stepped out to face the enemy. The clones advanced, their blasters blazing. Anakin deflected the bolts with fluid precision, but he hesitated to strike fatally. Instead, he disarmed them, using the Force to hurl their weapons aside and push them back. Obi-Wan watched from the cockpit, hope flickering within him. Anakin's restraint was a sign, small but significant. The clones pressed their attack, their numbers swelling. Anakin fought fiercely, but he was being overwhelmed. Obi-Wan maneuvered the ship closer, lowering the ramp. "Jump!" he called. Anakin leapt, the Force propelling him onto the ramp as the ship soared skyward, escaping the fiery chaos below. In hyperspace, Anakin returned to Padme's side, sinking into a chair beside her. Her breathing was steady, but she remained unconscious. Exhaustion and emotion weighed on him, his shoulders slumping. Obi-Wan approached, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Anakin, you didn't kill those clones. Why?" Anakin looked up, conflict swirling in his eyes. I don't know. It didn't feel right. They were just following the orders." "There's still good in you," Obi-Wan said firmly. "I can sense it." Anakin shook his head, guilt clawing at him. "I've done terrible things, Obi-Wan. I can't undo them." "It's not too late," Obi-Wan insisted. "Padme believes in you. I believe in you." The ship's alarms interrupted them again. A Star Destroyer had tracked them, its cannons priming to fire. "We need to lose them," Obi-Wan said, rushing back to the controls. Anakin followed, and together they navigated through an asteroid field, weaving between tumbling rocks and evading turbolaser blasts. After a harrowing chase, they shook their pursuers and set course for Polis Massa, a remote medical outpost. At Polis Massa, medical droids took Padme into their care. Anakin paced outside the treatment room, his anxiety palpable. "Will she be all right?" he asked a droid as it emerged. "The patient is stable," it replied. "She will recover with rest." Anakin exhaled, sinking into a chair. Obi-Wan sat beside him, offering silent support. "We need to plan our next move," Obi-Wan said after a moment. "Palpatine won't stop hunting us." "I know," Anakin replied, his voice weary. "The Jedi are gone because of me." "Not all of them," Obi-Wan said. "Some survived. We can rebuild, but we need you, Anakin, the Chosen One." "The Chosen One?" Anakin scoffed. "I was supposed to bring balance, not destroy everything." "Prophecies can be complex," Obi-Wan mused. "Perhaps a balance means choosing the light after falling." Anakin fell silent, Obi-Wan's words echoing in his mind. Padme stirred, her voice weak. "Anakin!" He rushed to her, taking her hand. "I'm here, Padme." "Where are we?" she asked, her eyes fluttering open. "Safe for now," he said, his voice thick with regret. "I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you." Tears welled in her eyes as she touched his face. "I know you're not yourself, but you can come back. We can be a family." "I want that," he whispered, "but I don't know if I can." "You can," she said, her grip tightening. "You're stronger than you think." As they embraced, Obi-Wan received a message from Bail Organa. The Empire was scouring the galaxy for Jedi survivors. They couldn't stay long. "We need to disappear," Anakin said, resolve hardening. "Find a place where we can be safe." Padme nodded. "Together." But as they prepared to leave, a unique twist emerged. A medical droid approached, its voice hesitant. "There is an anomaly. The patient carries twins." Anakin froze, the revelation striking him like lightning. Twins. 2 lives tied to his choices. The weight of his path, dark or light, suddenly doubled. A new burden and a new hope. The asteroid base of Polis Massa hung silently in the void, its cold, rocky surface dotted with domed structures that glowed faintly against the blackness of space. Inside one of these domes, a medical facility buzzed with the soft whirs and beeps of droids tending to their patients. Padme Amidala rested in a recovery chamber, her chest rising and falling steadily under a thin blanket. Her face, though pale, bore the resolute strength that had defined her as a senator and a leader. Nearby, Anakin Skywalker paced like a caged animal, his boots echoing on the polished floor. His black cloak billowed behind him, a stark reminder of the darkness that still clung to his soul. Obi-Wan Kenobi leaned against a wall, arms crossed, observing his former apprentice with a mixture of hope and wariness. The events on Mustafar had changed everything. Anakin's refusal to strike him down, the revelation of Padme's twins, the fragile thread of redemption now dangling before them. It was a thread Obi-Wan intended to nurture, though he knew the Empire would give them little time to breathe. "We can't stay here long," Obi-Wan said, his voice cutting through the hum of machinery. "The Empire will be hunting us. Polis Massa is too vulnerable, too close to Mustafar." Anakin halted mid-step, turning to face him. His eyes, still flecked with the yellow of the Sith, flickered with a tumult of emotions. Anger, fear, and something softer. "I know," he replied, his voice low. "But Padme, she's not strong enough to move yet. The droids say she's stable, but after what I did..." "She'll recover," Obi-Wan interjected gently. "She's stronger than you give her credit for." "And so are you, Anakin. We'll find a way forward." Anakin's gaze drifted to the transparent wall of the recovery chamber where Padme lay. "I almost killed her, Obi-Wan. I let the dark side take me. How can I trust myself after that?" Obi-Wan stepped closer, resting a hand on Anakin's shoulder, a gesture of trust he hadn't dared offer in weeks. "You're asking that question because you're still fighting. The dark side thrives on despair. But you have something it can't touch. Love. For Padme, for your children, cling to that." A flicker of resolve passed over Anakin's face, though doubt lingered. "I'll try," he murmured. A medical droid rolled up, its metallic frame glinting under the sterile lights. "The patient is awake," it announced in a clipped tone. "She wishes to see you, Master Skywalker." Anakin's heart leapt, and he hurried into the chamber. Padme looked up at him, her brown eyes warm despite the exhaustion etched into her features. She offered a faint smile and reached out a trembling hand. "Anakin," she whispered, her voice a balm to his frayed nerves. He took her hand gently, sinking under the edge of the bed. "Padme, I'm so sorry. Stop," she said, her grip tightening. "I know you didn't mean it. You were lost, manipulated. But you came back to me. That's what matters now." Tears stung Anakin's eyes, a mix of relief and guilt threatening to overwhelm him. "I don't deserve you." "You do," she countered firmly. "We're going to be a family, you, me, and our children. But you have to fight for it, Anakin. Fight the darkness." He nodded, swallowing hard. "I will, for you, for them." Padme guided his hand to her abdomen, where the faint swell of her pregnancy hinted at the lives within. "They're our future," she said softly. "They need their father, the real Anakin, not the one Palpatine tried to forge." Closing his eyes, Anakin reached out with the Force, sensing the twins, 2 tiny presences, radiant and pure. The dark side shrank from their light, and he clung to that sensation, letting it anchor him. "I won't let them down," he vowed. In the facility's control room, Obi-Wan activated a comm unit, receiving an encrypted transmission from Senator Bail Organa. The hologram shimmered into view, revealing Bail's stern yet compassionate face. "Obi-Wan," Bail began, "the Empire is moving swiftly. Palpatine has declared martial law, and Jedi are being tracked down across the galaxy. There's talk of a Sith assassin leading a task force to eliminate high-priority targets. You and Anakin are likely their primary focus." Obi-Wan's brow creased. "We need a safe haven somewhere off the Empire's radar." Bail nodded. "A nascent rebel cell is forming on Alderaan. It's discreet, and I can arrange sanctuary for you there. But Anakin's presence, it could draw attention." "We'll manage the risk," Obi-Wan said. "Padme needs stability, and Anakin needs time to find his footing." "Very well," Bail replied. "I'll send coordinates for a rendezvous point. Travel carefully, and may the Force be with you." The hologram dissolved, and Obi-Wan turned to see Anakin standing in the doorway, his expression grim. "Alderaan?" Anakin asked. "Our best option," Obi-Wan confirmed. "But we'll need to stay sharp. The Empire's reach is growing." Anakin glanced back toward Padme's chamber. "She's resting again. The droids say she can travel in a few hours." "Then we'll prepare the ship," Obi-Wan said, heading for the hangar. Alone, Anakin sank into a chair, his mind a battlefield. Alderaan promised respite, but peace felt like an illusion. Palpatine's shadow loomed large, and the dark side whispered promises of power. Closing his eyes, he sought clarity through the Force. Instead, a vision seized him. 2 children, a boy and a girl, standing in a field bathed in light. Their faces were familiar, echoes of Padme and himself, yet unknown. Shadows encroached, threatening to swallow them. Anakin's breath hitched. The twins. Their fate rested on his choices. "I won't fail you," he whispered, a promise etched into his soul. Hours later, Padme was cleared for travel. The trio boarded her elegant Naboo starship, its silver hull gleaming despite the scratches from Mustafar. Obi-Wan piloted, while Anakin secured Padme in a medical pod, her hand clasped in his. The ship lifted off, leaving Paulus Massa behind. Anakin watched the asteroid fade into the void, a symbol of the chaos they were escaping. The engine's hum filled the cabin, a steady rhythm against his racing thoughts. Padme squeezed his hand. "We'll make it through this, Anakin, together." He returned the gesture, drawing strength from her unwavering belief. "Together," he echoed. The ship leapt into hyperspace, stars stretching into streaks of light. But as they hurtled toward Alderaan, a cold ripple in the Force brushed Anakin's mind, Palpatine searching, unrelenting. The battle for his soul was far from won. Hyperspace offered a rare lull, the swirling blue tunnel a deceptive calm. Padme slept, her color improving, while Obi-Wan monitored the controls. Restless, Anakin retreated to the ship's small meditation chamber, kneeling on the cold floor. He tried to center himself, to reclaim the balance he'd lost. But the dark side was insidious, conjuring memories of the Jedi Temple. Screams, lightsabers clashing, younglings falling. Guilt clawed at him, threatening to drag him under. "No!" he growled, banishing the images. "That's not me anymore." Focusing on Padme and the twins, he pushed back the darkness. A fragile light emerged, tentative but real. It was enough. For now. A chime broke his focus. Obi-Wan's voice crackled over the intercom. "Anakin, come to the cockpit." Anakin joined him, eyeing the sensor display. "What is it?" "A ship's tailing us," Obi-Wan said, pointing to a blip on the screen. "Small, fast, likely a scout." Imperial." Anakin's hand hovered over his lightsaber. "Could be. Or a bounty hunter. We can't shake them in hyperspace." Anakin's jaw tightened. "We'll deal with them when we drop out." "Disable, don't destroy," Obi-Wan cautioned. "We're not here to escalate." "I'll try," Anakin said, though the dark side urged otherwise. As they exited hyperspace near Bail's coordinates, the pursuing ship followed. A sleek, unmarked craft. It fired without warning, bolts grazing their shields. "Evasive maneuvers!" Obi-Wan barked, veering the ship sharply. Anakin manned the turret, targeting the scout's engines. The pilot was agile, evading his shots. Frustration flared, the dark side tempting him to unleash his fury. "Stay calm," he muttered. channeling the Force to predict the enemy's path. A precise blast clipped the scout's wing, sending it spiraling. "Well done," Obi-Wan said, exhaling. "They're out of commission." Anakin relaxed, the tension ebbing. "Let's hope that's all." But as they neared Alderaan, a new alarm sounded. A Star Destroyer loomed on the sensors entering the system. "They've tracked us," Obi-Wan said, voice grim. "We need to reach the surface, now!" Anakin glanced at Padme, awake and tense. "Hold on," he told her. The ship dove into Alderaan's atmosphere, skimming verdant forests and shimmering lakes. Bail's coordinates guided them to a hidden landing pad in a secluded valley. Armed guards emerged as they landed, weapons raised. Obi-Wan exited first, hands up. "We're allies of Senator Organa." After a tense pause, a tall woman with sharp features stepped forward. "I'm Captain Mira. The Senator warned us of your arrival. Follow me." Anakin supported Padme. As they trailed Mira through underground tunnels, the air cool and earthy, they reached a chamber with simple furnishings, where Bail Organa awaited. "Welcome to Alderaan," Bail said, clasping Obi-Wan's hand and nodding to Anakin and Padme. "You're safe. For now." "Thank you, Bail," Padme said, her voice faint but grateful. Bail studied Anakin. "I've heard of your actions. Obi-Wan trusts you, so I will too." Anakin bowed. "I won't let you down." "Rest," Bail urged. "We'll plan tomorrow." Later, Anakin stood on a balcony overlooking a tranquil lake, the sunset painting the sky in vibrant hues. Padme joined him, slipping an arm around him. "It's peaceful," she murmured. "Too peaceful," he replied. "I'm not sure I fit here." "You do," she insisted. "We just have to earn it." He held her close, her warmth steadying him. "I'll fight for it," he promised. Yet a chill crept in, a dark presence on the horizon. Palpatine was coming. Morning brought birdsong and a deceptive calm. Over breakfast, Bail projected a galactic map on a holotable. "The Empire's grip tightens daily. Jedi are hunted, dissent crushed. We're building a resistance, but it's slow." Obi-Wan nodded. "Anakin and I can offer insight into Imperial strategies." Bail turned to Anakin. "Your skills could turn the tide. Are you with us?" "I am," Anakin said firmly. "I've seen the dark side's cost. I won't let it prevail." "Good," Bail said. "We've learned Master Yoda is in hiding. Finding him could unite the survivors." "Yoda?" Obi-Wan mused. "He's our best hope." Anakin felt a pang of shame, but pressed on. "I'll help make this right." Padme spoke up. "And the twins? Their safety comes first." "They'll be secure here," Bail assured her. Anakin shook his head. "Not while Palpatine lives. We need to end him." "Strategically," Obi-Wan added. "Recklessness won't serve us." An aide burst in, panting. "Sir, an Imperial probe droid's nearby, scanning." Bail paled. "They found us." Anakin gripped his lightsaber. "I'll take it out." "No," Obi-Wan said. "If it's reported back, it's too late. We evacuate." "Agreed," Bail said. "To the transports." The base erupted into motion. Anakin guided Padme to a shuttle, senses sharp. As they lifted off, he watched the valley shrink, resolve hardening within him. "We can't keep running," he told Obi-Wan. "We find Yoda, rally the Jedi, and hit Palpatine where it hurts." Padme's eyes held pride and fear. "It's risky." "It's necessary," Anakin said, "for our children's future." Obi-Wan nodded. "We'll need a plan, allies, but it's possible." Bail leaned in. "The rebellion will back you." Purpose surged through Anakin, drowning the dark side's whispers. But as the shuttle sped into the stars, Palpatine's voice hissed in his mind. "You are mine." "Not anymore," Anakin growled, silencing it. The hidden rebel base on Alderaan hummed with quiet urgency as Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Padme Amidala, and their small entourage prepared to depart. The sleek, unmarked transport ship awaited them on a concealed landing pad, its engines emitting a low, steady hum. Bail Organa stood nearby, his regal posture softened by a look of deep concern. "May the Force be with you," Bail said, clasping Obi-Wan's hand firmly. "Finding Master Yoda is crucial. He can help unite the surviving Jedi and give us a fighting chance against the Empire." Obi-Wan nodded solemnly. "We'll do everything we can, Bail. Thank you for your support." Anakin guided Padme aboard, his hand steady on her arm. Her pregnancy was now pronounced, her strength unwavering despite the physical and emotional toll of their journey. As they settled into the ship, Anakin cast a lingering glance at Alderaan's verdant landscape, a world of peace and beauty, so unlike the chaos they were about to plunge into. "We'll be back," he murmured, more to himself than anyone else. Obi-Wan took the pilot's seat, his fingers deftly inputting the coordinates for Dagobah, a remote, swampy planet rumored to be Yoda's sanctuary. The ship lifted off with a gentle lurch, slipping into the vastness of space. As they entered hyperspace, the stars blurred into streaks of light, and a tense silence settled over the cabin. Anakin sat beside Padme, his hand resting protectively on her knee. "How are you feeling?" he asked, his voice gentle. She offered a faint smile, though her eyes betrayed her exhaustion. "I'm managing. The twins are restless, though. They seem to sense the tension." Closing his eyes, Anakin reached out with the Force, feeling the two tiny presences within her, vibrant, alive, and brimming with potential. A warmth spread through him, a tether to the light amid the darkness that still lingered in his soul. "They're strong, like their mother," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Padme's hand covered his, her touch grounding him. "And their father." He swallowed hard, the weight of his past sins pressing down on him. "I hope so." Obi-Wan glanced back from the cockpit. "Anakin, when we reach Dagobah, we must be cautious. The planet is treacherous, and if the Empire has any inkling of Yoda's location, they'll be watching." Anakin met his former master's gaze. "I understand, but we need Yoda. He's the only one who can help us rally the remaining Jedi." "Agreed," Obi-Wan replied, "but your presence may draw attention. We must tread lightly." Anakin's jaw tightened. The dark side still whispered to him, tempting him with promises of power and control. Yet he pushed it away, anchoring himself in the love he felt for Padme and their unborn children. "I'll do whatever it takes," he vowed. The journey to Dagobah stretched on, the ship slicing through the blue tunnel of hyperspace. Padme rested in a reclined seat, her breathing steady but labored. Anakin watched her with growing concern, sensing her discomfort through their shared connection in the Force. "Are you in pain?" he asked, kneeling beside her. She winced slightly, pressing a hand to her abdomen. "It's just pressure. The twins are moving a lot." Anakin hesitated, then placed his hands gently on her belly. Closing his eyes, he reached out with the Force, channeling a soothing energy toward her and the babies. He felt the tension ease, Padme's muscles relaxing under his touch as the restless movements within her calmed. "Thank you," she whispered, her eyes fluttering closed in relief. Obi-Wan observed from a distance, a flicker of hope in his gaze. Anakin's ability to use the Force for healing, for comfort, was a testament to his growing connection to the light. It was a small victory, but in these dark times, every step forward mattered. As the ship neared its destination, Obi-Wan called Anakin to the cockpit. "We're approaching Dagobah. Prepare for landing." Anakin joined him, peering at the swirling green and brown orb on the view screen. "It looks foreboding." "It's a place strong in the Force," Obi-Wan said, "both light and dark. We must stay focused." The ship shuddered as it exited hyperspace, descending into Dagobah's thick, misty atmosphere. The landscape below was a tangled mass of swamps, gnarled trees, and murky waters, shrouded in a dense fog that clung to everything like a living entity. "Setting down near the coordinates Bale provided," Obi-Wan announced, guiding the ship toward a small clearing. The landing was rough, the ship sinking slightly into the spongy ground with a squelch. Anakin helped Padme to her feet, draping a cloak around her shoulders. "Stay close," he said, his tone firm. "This place is dangerous." She nodded, her hand resting on the blaster at her hip. Despite her condition, Padme was no stranger to peril, her resolve as unyielding as ever. As they stepped onto the planet's surface, the air was thick with humidity and the acrid scent of the decay. Strange creatures called out from the shadows, their eerie cries echoing through the mist. Anakin reached out with the Force, searching for Yoda's presence. There, a faint but unmistakable signature, like a beacon piercing the gloom. "This way," he said, leading the group deeper into the swamp. The trek was grueling, the terrain a relentless adversary. Twisted roots snaked across their path, and the ground sucked at their boots with every step, threatening to pull them under. Padme leaned on Anakin for support, her breathing growing more labored with each passing minute. "Are you sure this is the right way?" she asked, wiping sweat from her brow. Anakin nodded, his senses attuned to the Force. "I can feel him. He's close." Obi-Wan scanned their surroundings, his posture tense. "We're not alone. There are other presences here, and native creatures perhaps, but also something else." Anakin's hand hovered over his lightsaber, his instincts sharpening. "Imperials?" "Possibly," Obi-Wan replied. "Stay vigilant." They pressed onward, the fog parting briefly to reveal a small, crudely built hut nestled among the trees. A sense of calm radiated from it, a stark contrast to the planet's oppressive atmosphere. "Yoda," Anakin whispered, a surge of hope rising within him. But before they could approach, a rustling in the underbrush shattered the stillness. From the shadows emerged a squad of Imperial scout troopers, their white armor smeared with mud, blasters raised. "Halt!" the lead trooper commanded. "Identify yourselves!" Anakin and Obi-Wan exchanged a glance. There was no time for diplomacy. Igniting their lightsabers in unison, they moved with fluid precision, deflecting blaster bolts with practiced ease. Anakin fought with controlled restraint, careful not to strike fatally. He disarmed the troopers, using the Force to send their weapons flying into the swamp's murky depths. "Retreat!" the lead trooper shouted, and the squad scrambled back into the fog, their footsteps fading into the distance. Obi-Wan deactivated his lightsaber, breathing heavily. "They'll report our location. We need to find Yoda quickly." Anakin nodded, supporting Padme as they hurried toward the hut. As they neared, a small, green figure emerged from the doorway, his large ears twitching, his jammer stick tapping the ground. "Master Yoda!" Obi-Wan said, bowing respectfully. Yoda's wise, ancient eyes appraised them, lingering on Anakin. "Expected you, I did. Sensed your arrival through the Force." Anakin stepped forward, his voice earnest. "Master Yoda, we need your help. The Jedi are scattered, the Empire is hunting us. We must unite to fight back." Yoda tilted his head, studying Anakin with an intensity that pierced through him. A path of redemption you seek. Difficult, it will be. The dark side, strong in you, it is." Anakin lowered his gaze, shame and determination warring within him. "I know, but I'm trying. For my family, for the future." Yoda nodded slowly. "A powerful motivation, love is. But careful, you must be. The dark side, always there. It is." Padme, standing beside Anakin, spoke up, her voice steady despite her fatigue. "Master Yoda, we believe in him. He's changed." Yoda's gaze softened, a hint of warmth breaking through his stern demeanor. "Hope there is, but tested, you will be." Inside the cramped hut, the group gathered around a small fire, its flickering light casting shadows on the earthen walls. Yoda served them a simple meal, stew made from local roots, his movements deliberate and calm. "Hidden many Jedi are," Yoda said, sipping from a wooden cup, "scattered across the galaxy waiting for a sign. A network we can build, but trust we must earn." Obi-Wan leaned forward, his expression intent. "We need a base of operations, somewhere the Empire won't find us." Yoda tapped his Geimer stick thoughtfully against the floor. "A moon in the outer rim. Uncharted it is, suitable it may be." Anakin's eyes lit up with possibility. "We can establish a rebel base there, gather our forces." "Yes," Yoda agreed. "But first, prepare we must. The Empire relentless it is." As they discussed logistics, Padme suddenly gasped, clutching her abdomen. "Anakin!" He was at her side in an instant, his heart pounding. "What is it?" "The babies... I think... it's too soon," she panted, her face contorted in pain. Anakin's mind raced, panic clawing at him. "We need to get her to a medical facility." Yoda shuffled closer, placing a small, clawed hand on Padme's belly. Strong. The children are. But early their arrival is." Obi-Wan glanced around the sparse hut. "We don't have the equipment here. We need to leave Dagobah immediately." But even as he spoke, the distant hum of engines reverberated through the swamp, growing louder by the second. Imperial reinforcements had arrived. "They found us!" Anakin growled, his protective instincts surging. Yoda's ears perked up, his expression sharpening. Quickly, to your ship. You must go. Delay. We cannot. The group hastened back to their ship, Anakin half carrying Padme, as she struggled through intensifying contractions. Obi-Wan and Yoda led the way, their senses alert for any sign of danger. As they reached the clearing, a squad of stormtroopers burst from the trees, blasters raised. "Stop right there!" their commander barked. Anakin ignited his lightsaber, the blue blade humming to life. "Stay back," he warned, his voice low and edged with menace. Obi-Wan stepped forward, his own lightsaber at the ready. "We don't want to fight. Let us pass." The commander sneered beneath his helmet. "You're all under arrest by order of the Emperor." Anakin's anger flared, the dark side coiling within him, urging him to strike. But he remembered his promise. To Padme, to their children, to himself. With a deep breath, he channeled his emotions into focus, deflecting blaster bolts with precision and disarming the troopers without taking lives. Yoda, despite his diminutive size, moved with astonishing agility, using the Force to send several troopers sprawling into the muck. "Hurry to the ship!" he urged. They fought their way to the boarding ramp, Anakin shielding Padme as she climbed aboard with labored steps. Once inside, Obi-Wan took the controls, the ship lifting off just as more troopers poured into the clearing, their blaster fire pinging harmlessly off the hull. The ship soared into the sky, breaking through Dagobah's thick atmosphere and into the freedom of space. But Padme's condition was deteriorating rapidly. "Anakin!" she gasped, gripping his hand. "I can't... It's happening now!" Panic seized him, his breath catching. "We need a medic!" Yoda hobbled over, his expression calm amid the chaos. "The Force, use it you can. Guide the birth it will." Anakin stared at him wide-eyed and uncertain. "I don't know how." "Trust in yourself you must," Yoda said firmly. "The light side, strong in you it is." Taking a shuddering breath, Anakin placed his hands on Padme's abdomen, closing his eyes. He reached out with the Force, feeling the twins' life energies, their urgency, their readiness to enter the world. Gently he encouraged them, easing their passage with a tender, protective energy. Padme cried out, and with a final, anguished push, the first child emerged. A boy, his cries piercing the cabin's tense silence. Moments later, a girl followed, her tiny fists waving defiantly in the air. Tears streamed down Anakin's face as he cradled his children, their innocence a balm to the scars of his past. "Luke and Leia," he whispered, naming them in that sacred, fleeting moment. Padme smiled weakly, her hand trembling as she caressed their heads. "They're beautiful." Obi-Wan, having set the ship on autopilot, joined them, his eyes misty with emotion. "Congratulations, both of you." Yoda nodded approvingly, a rare smile tugging at his lips. "A new hope they are, for the galaxy and for you, Anakin." With the twins safely born, the group continued to the uncharted moon Yoda had described. It was a lush, verdant world, its surface dotted with caves and dense forests, an ideal hiding place for a fledgling rebellion. They landed in a secluded valley where a small contingent of rebel sympathizers awaited them. Medical droids tended to Padme and the newborns, ensuring their health and stability after the harrowing birth. Anakin stood outside the makeshift infirmary, gazing through a window as Padme nursed Luke and Leia. A profound sense of purpose swelled within him. He had a family now, a tangible reason to fight beyond his own redemption. Obi-Wan approached, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You did well, Anakin. You've come a long way." Anakin turned to him, his expression resolute. "I can't let Palpatine win. Not now, not ever." "We won't," Obi-Wan assured him. "With Yoda's help, we'll build a resistance strong enough to challenge the Empire." Yoda joined them, his eyes twinkling with quiet wisdom. "Ready you are to take the next step. But beware, the Emperor, powerful he is. Underestimate him, we must not." Anakin nodded, his mind drifting to the horrors he'd witnessed under Palpatine's tutelage. "I know his tricks. I was his apprentice after all." "Use that knowledge we will," Yoda said. "But first, rest. Tomorrow the work begins." As night fell over the moon, Anakin lay beside Padme, the twins nestled between them in a cradle of blankets. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, he allowed himself to hope. But as sleep claimed him, a vision invaded his dreams. Palpatine, his eyes glowing with malice, torturing Luke and Leia with jagged bolts of Force lightning, their screams echoing in his mind. Anakin jolted awake, sweat beading on his forehead, his heart hammering. The message was unmistakable. The Emperor would stop at nothing to destroy everything he held dear. Rising silently, he gazed at his sleeping family, their peaceful faces illuminated by the moonlight filtering through the window. "I won't let him touch you," he vowed under his breath. "I'll end him no matter the cost." The rebel encampment nestled beneath the dense canopy of an uncharted moon, its thick foliage masking their presence from prying Imperial sensors. The air hummed with the low thrum of generators and the distant chirps of alien wildlife, but an undercurrent of tension pulsed through the camp. Twin suns hung low in the sky, their amber light filtering through the leaves, casting dappled shadows across the makeshift shelters. For weeks, this secret base had been a sanctuary, a fragile bastion of hope for the fledgling rebellion. Now, that sanctuary teetered on the edge of collapse. Anakin Skywalker stood at the Rota camp's perimeter, his tall frame silhouetted against the fading light. His dark cloak fluttered faintly in the breeze, and his hand rested on the hilt of his lightsaber, its cold metal a constant reminder of the path he'd chosen, and the one he'd rejected. In his pocket, a small wooden toy starfighter carved with care for his children pressed against his thigh. He'd made it during quieter moments, a promise of a future he was determined to secure for Luke and Leia, but those moments felt distant now, overshadowed by the gnawing certainty that the Empire was drawing near. Padmé Amidala approached, her footsteps muffled by the mossy ground. She wore a practical tunic, her blaster holstered at her hip, but her presence carried the quiet strength that had always steadied him. She slipped her hand into his, her fingers warm against his calloused palm. "You've been staring at the horizon for hours," she said softly, her voice cutting through the noise of his thoughts. Anakin turned to her, his blue eyes catching the last rays of sunlight. "I can feel it, Padmé. Something's coming. The Empire, they're too close." Her grip tightened, her jaw set with determination. "Then we'll face it together. We've survived worse." He managed a faint smile, though doubt clawed at him. The dark side lingered at the edges of his mind, a seductive murmur promising the power to shield his family, to crush their enemies. He forced it down, grounding himself in Padmé's unwavering faith and the distant sound of their twins' laughter echoing from the camp. Luke and Leia were safe for now, playing under the watchful eyes of rebel caretakers, their innocence a beacon he clung to. Obi-Wan Kenobi emerged from the shadows, his beige robes blending with the twilight. His face, lined with the weight of years in war, bore a grim expression. "Anakin, we've received a transmission from Bail Organa. The Empire's intercepted one of our coded messages. They don't have our exact coordinates yet, but it's only a matter of time." Anakin's stomach tightened. "We need to strengthen our defenses, traps, sentries, anything to buy us time. And we should prepare the evacuation ships, just in case." Obi-Wan nodded. "I'll organize the Jedi to reinforce the perimeter. We've got a handful of survivors from the temple, Quinlan Voss among them. Their skills will be invaluable." "Good," Anakin said, his gaze drifting to Padmé. "I'll focus on the civilians. Padmé, the twins, the others who can't fight, they need to be ready to move." Padmé's eyes flashed with defiance. "I'm not some fragile flower, Anakin. I can hold my own." He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face, his touch lingering. "I know you can, but the twins need their mother, and I need you safe." She softened, though her hand rested on her blaster. "I'll oversee the evacuation plans. We'll be ready." As they turned back toward the camp, a small figure hobbled into view, Master Yoda, his gnarled cane tapping the ground. Despite his diminutive size, his presence filled the space, a quiet force of wisdom and power. "Darkness, I sense," he said, his voice low and measured. "Close. It grows. A battle we cannot avoid." Anakin knelt before him, his head bowed. "Master Yoda, how do I face this? The dark side. It's still there, pulling at me." Yoda's ancient eyes studied him, piercing through layers of doubt. "Fear, anger, these feed the dark side. Strength you must find in trust, in love. Alone, you are not." Anakin drew a deep breath, Yoda's words settling into him like roots into soil. "I'll try, Master." "Try you will not." Yoda corrected, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Do, you must." The next 3 days blurred into a frenzy of activity. Anakin threw himself into the work, his mechanical arm whirring as he hauled logs to fortify barricades and dug trenches alongside rebel soldiers. Sweat streaked his face, mingling with the dirt, but he welcomed the exhaustion. It kept the dark whispers at bay. The forest became a labyrinth of traps, tripwires linked to stun grenades, pits concealed beneath leaves, and motion sensors rigged to alert the camp. Obi-Wan and the Jedi established a perimeter of Force-sensitive sentries, their minds attuned to disturbances in the Force. Quinlan Voss, his dark hair streaked with gray, moved with a predator's grace, setting up ambush points with a roguish grin. "Let them come in," he muttered. "I've got a few surprises for those bucketheads." Padme, her pregnancy barely slowing her, coordinated the evacuation efforts with military precision. She mapped escape routes, assigned pilots to the handful of transports, and ensured supplies were packed for a swift departure. Rebels darted around her, following her calm, authoritative commands, their morale bolstered by her resolve. Anakin paused during a rare break, watching her from across the camp. She stood with a datapad in hand, directing a group of mechanics, her voice steady despite the chaos. A swell of pride and love rose in his chest. She was his rock, his reason to resist the darkness. But the whispers persisted, louder now, promising an end to the threat if he'd only embrace his full power. He clenched his fists, shaking his head. "Not this time," he growled under his breath, returning to his work. That night, as the camp settled into a restless hush, Anakin slipped into the tent where Luke and Leia slept. The twins lay in their cribs, their tiny chests rising and falling in sync. Moonlight filtered through the canvas, illuminating their soft features, Luke's curious frown, Leia's determined pout. He knelt beside them, taking their small hands in his, their warmth seeping into him. "I'll protect you," he whispered, his voice thick. "Whatever it takes." Padme entered silently, kneeling beside him. She wrapped an arm around his waist, her head resting on his shoulder. "They look so peaceful," she murmured. "Too peaceful for a galaxy like this," Anakin replied, his gaze fixed on them. "They deserve better." She turned his face toward hers, her brown eyes fierce yet tender. "They'll have it. We'll make sure of it." He leaned into her, their foreheads pressing together, a silent vow passing between them. "Together," he said. "Always," she answered. The attack shattered the stillness at dawn. The sky split with the screech of TIE fighters, their engines tearing through the morning mist. Green laser bolts rained down, igniting trees and scattering rebels. Alarms wailed, and the camp erupted into motion, soldiers grabbing blasters, Jedi igniting sabers, civilians racing for the evacuation ships. Anakin's lightsaber flared to life, its blue blade humming as he sprinted into the fray. "Padme, get to the transports!" he shouted, deflecting a volley of blaster fire. She hesitated, her hand on her blaster, then nodded, disappearing into the chaos with the other non-combatants. Anakin turned to face the enemy, his heart hammering. Stormtroopers swarmed from the forest, their white armor glinting, blasters spitting red death. He moved like a tempest, his saber a blur as he cut through their ranks. Blaster bolts ricocheted off his blade, striking troopers or sizzling into the ground. For every soldier he dropped, more emerged, an endless tide. Obi-Wan fought at his side, their movements synchronized from years of battle, their sabers weaving a wall of light. "There's too many!" Obi-Wan yelled, parrying a barrage of shots. "We need to retreat!" Anakin gritted his teeth, the dark side surging within him, a tidal wave of rage and power begging to be unleashed. He could end this, sweep the troopers away with a single devastating blow, but he held back, channeling his strength into protecting his allies, not destroying them. A new threat emerged from the smoke. A figure in black armor, his presence a cold void in the Force. Starkiller, the Emperor's latest enforcer, strode forward, his red lightsaber igniting with a hiss. His helmeted face tilted, assessing Anakin with disdain. "Skywalker," he sneered, his voice amplified by his mask. "You've fallen far. The Emperor expected more." Anakin squared his shoulders, his grip steady. "I'm not his pawn anymore." Starkiller's laughter was a jagged edge. "You're nothing now." Their blades met in a shower of sparks, blue clashing against red. Starkiller fought with feral intensity, his strikes fueled by the dark side's fury, each blow a test of Anakin's restraint. Anakin countered with precision, his movements deliberate, refusing to give in to anger. The forest rang with the sound of their duel, metal screeching, energy crackling. You could have ruled, Starkiller taunted, lunging. Instead, you grovel with these weaklings. Anakin parried, his voice firm. I'm free. That's more than you'll ever know. He pressed forward, his strength surging, and with a deft twist, he sent Starkiller's saber flying into the undergrowth. The Enforcer stumbled, exposed, but before Anakin could act, a searing pain lanced through his skull. Palpatine's voice slithered into his mind, icy and commanding. You are mine, Anakin! You cannot defy me! Anakin staggered, clutching his head, and the Emperor's psychic assault threatening to overwhelm him. Starkiller grinned, recalling his saber with the Force and striking, but Obi-Wan leapt in, his blade blocking the attack. Anakin, fight it! Obi-Wan urged, his voice cutting through the haze. Anakin shook off the intrusion, his resolve hardening. He rejoined Obi-Wan, their combined might forcing Starkiller back. The Enforcer retreated into the smoke, his final words echoing, "This is only the beginning." The battle raged on, the rebels' defenses crumbling under the Imperial assault. Bodies littered the ground, soldiers, Jedi, friends. Each lost a weight on Anakin's soul. He regrouped with Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Voss near the command tent, their faces etched with exhaustion. We're losing ground, Obi-Wan said, wiping soot from his brow. We have to evacuate now. Yoda's ears drooped, his voice heavy. Flee we must. Preserve the rebellion we will. Anakin's chest tightened. Padme and the twins. Where are they? A young rebel, his arm bandaged, saluted. They're on the lead transport, sir, but the TIEs are targeting the ships. Panic seized Anakin, the dark side whispering of failure, of loss. He shoved it aside, racing toward the landing zone. The sky was a chaos of fire and smoke, TIE fighters strafing the fleeing transports. He spotted Padme's ship, a modified blockade runner, lifting off, its engines glowing. Relief surged through him, but it shattered as a squadron of TIEs dove, their cannons blazing. No! Anakin roared, stretching out with the Force. He seized the lead fighter, crushing its cockpit with a surge of will. It spiraled into the trees, erupting in flames. More TIEs closed in, relentless. Anakin fought with desperate fury, deflecting laser bolts with his saber, hurling chunks of debris at the attackers. But a direct hit struck the transport's starboard engine, sending it careening toward the forest in a plume of sparks. Padme! Anakin's scream tore from his throat as he sprinted toward the crash site. The ship hit the ground hard, skidding through trees, its hull crumpling. Smoke poured from the wreckage as he reached it, tearing at the twisted metal with his hands in the Force, heedless of the cuts slicing his skin. Inside, he found Padme slumped in her seat, a gash bleeding across her forehead. Luke and Leia cried in their carriers, strapped in and shaken but alive. Padme! He gasped, fumbling with her restraints, his hands trembling. Her eyes fluttered open, dazed but alert. Anakin... The twins... They're okay, he said, lifting her carefully. We're getting out. Cradling Padme and securing the twins, he stumbled from the wreckage as stormtroopers advanced. Obi-Wan and Voss appeared, their sabers flashing, cutting a path through the enemy. To the backup ship! Obi-Wan shouted. Go! Anakin ran, his lungs burning, Padme's weight a lifeline in his arms. The backup freighter, a dented, patched-together vessel, waited ahead, its ramp open. He boarded, laying Padme on a cot as the last rebels piled in. The ship shuddered into the sky, engines groaning, leaving the burning base behind. Through the viewport, Anakin watched the moon recede, flames consuming their sanctuary. The cost was staggering, but they'd escaped. Barely. The freighter limped through hyperspace, its hull creaking under the strain. A medical droid tended Padme's wounds, its mechanical arms precise, while Luke and Leia dozed in Anakin's lap, their cries silenced by exhaustion. He sat in the cockpit staring at the streaking stars, guilt and resolve warring within him. The Empire had found them too easily. They'd be hunted again, and soon. A sharp beep broke his reverie, an encrypted signal on the comms. Wary, he activated it, and a hologram flickered to life. A cloaked figure, their face hidden, their voice distorted by a modulator. Skywalker, the figure said. I am Fulcrum. I have tracked your movements. Anakin's eyes narrowed. Who are you? What do you want? An ally, Fulcrum replied. I have intelligence for your rebellion. The Empire is focusing its forces on Coruscant and overextending elsewhere. There's a chance to strike. Anakin leaned forward, cautious but intrigued. Strike where? Ord Mantell, Fulcrum said. A weapons depot, poorly defended but vital to their supply lines. Destroy it, and you'll disrupt their operations across the sector. Why trust you? Anakin asked, his tone sharp. Fulcrum's voice softened, a hint of empathy breaking through. Because I've seen what the Empire takes. I know what you're fighting for. We want the same thing. Anakin hesitated, then nodded. Send the coordinates, we'll handle it. The hologram faded, leaving him with a spark of possibility. A strike against the Empire could rally others, prove that the rebellion wasn't broken. The freighter rendezvoused with the surviving rebel fleet in a remote system, far from Imperial eyes. On the flagship, a repurposed frigate, Anakin gathered with Obi-Wan, Yoda, Voss, and the remaining Jedi. The air was thick with fatigue, but their spirits held firm. We've lost the base, Obi-Wan said, his voice steady. But not our purpose. We need a new haven. Yoda tapped his cane, thoughtful. Hidden we must be. A nebula, perhaps, or asteroid belt. Anakin spoke up, his voice resolute. I've got intel from a contact, Fulcrum. There's an Imperial weapons depot on Ord Mantell. We hit it. We show the galaxy we're still in this fight. Voss smirked, cracking his knuckles. Sounds like my kind of party. Obi-Wan frowned. It's a risk. Our numbers are depleted. But it's a chance we can't ignore, Anakin countered. Hiding won't win this war. We need to strike back. Yoda's gaze twinkled with approval. Courage this takes. Wise it may be. Agree, I do. Padme entered, her head bandaged but her stride purposeful. I'll reach out to our allies. Bail Mon Mothma. We'll need support for this. Anakin took her hand, gratitude warming his chest. Thank you, Padme. The meeting dispersed, and Anakin lingered by the viewport, the stars stretching into infinity. The road ahead was perilous, but he felt a clarity he hadn't known in years. He wasn't fighting for power or vengeance, but for his family, for a future worth believing in. That, he realized, was a strength Palpatine could never touch. The rebel fleet hung in the vast emptiness of space, a patchwork armada of mismatched ships, weathered freighters from smugglers' runs, salvaged Clone Wars relics, and a handful of captured Imperial shuttles. And despite their ragtag appearance, these vessels were united by a fierce, unyielding spirit. Aboard the flagship, a Mon Calamari cruiser rechristened the Defiant, and its hull scarred from countless battles, Anakin Skywalker stood in the command center. His eyes locked on a holographic projection of Ord Mantell. The planet spun slowly in the display, a rugged world of junkyards, factories, and hidden Imperial might. Beneath its surface lay their target, a weapons depot critical to the Empire's dominance in the sector. Anakin's gloved hand hovered over the hologram, tracing the depot's fortified outline. His mind churned with strategies, entry points, guard rotations, structural weaknesses. The plan was bold, teetering on the edge of folly, but the rebellion's survival demanded it. Destroying the depot would disrupt Imperial operations and ignite hope across the galaxy, proving that resistance was not futile. The soft click of boots on metal drew his attention. Padme Amidala stepped into the room, her presence a quiet anchor in the storm of preparation. She wore a utilitarian jumpsuit, her hair pulled back tightly, but her eyes betrayed the strain of their shared journey. "The pilots are prepped," she said, her tone measured. "Bale's informants slipped us fresh schematics. We've got everything we need." Anakin turned, a brief warmth softening his stern features. "And the twins?" "Safe on the medical frigate with the caretakers," she replied, a small smile breaking through. "They're too little to know what's happening, but I swear they can feel it." He took her hand, his grip firm yet gentle. "We'll give them a galaxy they can grow up in, one worth fighting for." Obi-Wan Kenobi entered behind her, his beige robes a stark contrast to the ship's cold steel. His gaze settled on Anakin, thoughtful and searching. "This mission isn't just about the depot, is it?" Anakin met his old friend's eyes, catching the deeper meaning. "Number, it's about showing the Empire we can hit them where it hurts, that we're not just shadows running from the light." "And for you?" Obi-Wan's voice dropped, probing. Anakin paused, the familiar tug of darkness whispering at his mind's edges. "It's about facing who I was, and proving who I am now." A faint pride flickered in Obi-Wan's expression. "Then let's make it a victory worth remembering." The command center soon buzzed with activity as the briefing commenced. Pilots, commandos, and a handful of surviving Jedi filled the space. Quinlan Voss lounged against a console, arms crossed with a roguish grin, while Master Yoda perched on a stool, his diminutive frame radiating authority. Anakin stepped to the hologram's center, his voice cutting through the murmurs. "We'll approach Ord Mantell posing as a supply convoy," he began, gesturing to the map. "Once we're close, strike teams will slip into the depot via maintenance tunnels. Our goal, plant charges at critical junctures and knock out their security grid. Up here, the fleet will draw their fire, keeping their eyes off the ground." A young pilot, her face etched with a battle scar, raised a hand. "What about backup? The Empire won't let us stroll in without a fight." Anakin's jaw tightened. "We're counting on resistance. Heavy resistance speeds our edge. We strike fast, set the charges, and pull out before they can swarm us." Voss smirked, his eyes glinting. "My kind of chaos. I'll take the ground team." Yoda rapped his Geimer stick against the floor, his gravelly voice a warning. "Caution we must have. Strong. The dark side is in such places. Temptation it offers." Anakin felt the weight of Yoda's gaze, a silent echo of his own inner struggle. "I'll stay sharp, Master." The briefing wrapped and the team scattered to their posts. Anakin lingered, his thoughts drifting to Luke and Leia. He'd vowed to shield them, to carve out a future free of tyranny. This mission was a piece of that promise, but danger loomed like a gathering storm. Padme approached, her hand resting on his arm. "You're worried." "Always," he murmured, barely audible. "But I have to trust this is the right call." She rose on her toes, kissing his cheek. "It is, and we're in this together." He pulled her close, her strength bolstering his own. "Together," he repeated, the word a lifeline. The rebel fleet burst from hyperspace, scattering into a loose formation as Ord Mantell filled their view. A mottled sphere of rust and ruin, its surface scarred by industry and neglect. The Imperial depot crouched in a canyon, its Durasteel shell glinting faintly under the sun. From above, it seemed mundane, but Anakin knew its depths held arsenals that could arm entire fleets. Masquerading as a supply convoy, the rebels broadcast falsified codes, gliding past the outer patrols. Anakin piloted a battered shuttle, its hull scuffed to match the planet's traffic. Inside, Voss, a dozen commandos, and 2 Jedi Knights checked their weapons, their faces taut with resolve. "Stick to the plan," Anakin said, his voice steady. "In and out. No heroics. We can't lose anyone." Voss clapped his shoulder. "Relax, Skywalker, we're golden." The shuttle skimmed low over junk heaps and rusted plains, touching down in a shadowed ravine near the depot. The team disembarked, darting through the gloom to a maintenance hatch. Anakin's lightsaber flared blue, slicing the lock with a hiss, and they slipped inside. The tunnels were a claustrophobic tangle of pipes and grates, the air heavy with grease and static. Guided by datapads, they crept forward, Anakin's senses prickling. The Force thrummed with unease, the dark side's murmur growing louder, a seductive promise of power he forced himself to ignore. They emerged into the depot's heart, a cavernous chamber stacked with crates of blasters, explosives, and TIE fighter components. The team split, setting charges while Anakin and Voss tackled the security console. "Almost there," Voss muttered, fingers dancing over the controls. "Just gotta kill the alarms." A cold shiver cut him off, and Anakin's hand snapped to his saber. "We've got company." Stormtroopers poured from the shadows, blasters blazing. "Freeze! Hands up!" The rebels responded with lethal precision. Anakin's saber hummed, deflecting bolts in a blur, while Voss's green blade carved through the troopers. The commandos fired back, dropping foes with practiced aim. The skirmish was swift, brutal, but as the last trooper fell, a new threat emerged. A figure in black strode forward, his red saber igniting with a venomous snarl. Starkiller, helmeted and radiating menace. "You!" Starkiller sneered, voice warped by his mask. "I thought Kashyyyk was your end." Anakin faced him, unshaken. "You were wrong." Starkiller's laugh grated like broken glass. "The Emperor's itching to drag you back, Skywalker. You're his prize." "I belong to no one," Anakin shot back, igniting his blade. Their duel erupted, blue clashing with red in a storm of sparks. Starkiller attacked with savage fury, each strike a hammer blow, but Anakin countered with measured grace, his focus a shield against the dark side's pull. Victory dangled within reach, yet he held firm, fighting not for dominance, but for his team. "Anakin, charges are set!" Voss yelled. "Move!" Anakin broke away, leaping clear. "Back to the shuttle! Now!" They raced through the tunnels, Starkiller hounding them, his saber slashing walls into molten ruin. The charges detonated as they neared the exit, a chain of blasts rocking the depot. Debris rained, forcing Starkiller back, and the team burst into daylight, sprinting for the shuttle. Engines roared as they lifted off, the depot collapsing into a fiery grave below. In orbit, the rebel fleet clashed with Imperial forces. The Defiant spearheaded the fight, its cannons hammering enemy cruisers while X-wings danced through TIE swarms, torpedoes lighting the void. Anakin's shuttle docked amid the chaos, and he dashed to the bridge, finding Obi-Wan and Padme directing the battle. "Depot's gone!" he panted, exhilaration cutting through fatigue. "Mission accomplished!" Padme's eyes shone with relief. "The team?" "All here," he said, a grin breaking free. Obi-Wan gripped his shoulder. "A fine strike, Anakin. The Empire will feel this." Their triumph faltered as an alarm blared. A Star Destroyer loomed from hyperspace, its silhouette a blade against the stars. Anakin froze, sensing a presence he'd hoped to evade, icy, malevolent, unmistakable. "Palpatine!" he whispered, dread coiling in his gut. The Emperor's voice thundered over the comms, laced with the Force's power. "Rebels, your courage is admirable but futile. Surrender and mercy might yet be yours." The dark side surged in Anakin, a torrent of rage and fear, Palpatine's will clawing at his soul. He clenched his fists, grounding himself in Padme, in the twins, in the flicker of hope they'd kindled. "We'll never bow," he declared, his voice ringing across the fleet. "We fight for freedom, for justice, and we'll win." Palpatine's laughter was a cruel shard of ice. "Foolish words, behold your rebellion's end." The Star Destroyer unleashed hell, its turbolasers shredding rebel ships. The Defiant rocked, shields faltering under the barrage. Anakin met Obi-Wan's gaze, resolve hardening. "We need to pull back, regroup." "Agreed," Obi-Wan said. "Signal the retreat." The fleet scattered into hyperspace, the Defiant lingering as rear guard, its hull battered but unbroken. As the stars blurred into light, Anakin sank into a chair, exhaustion crashing over him. Padme knelt beside him, her hand warm on his. "You did it, Anakin. We hurt them today." He looked at her, weariness shadowing his eyes. "Palpatine won't stop. He'll hunt us to the end." She cradled his face, fierce and tender. "Then we keep fighting, together." He leaned into her touch, her strength a beacon. "Together." Later, aboard the drifting Defiant, Anakin sought refuge in the meditation chamber. The cold floor grounded him as he knelt, wrestling with the day's toll. The depot's fall was a triumph, but Palpatine's shadow loomed larger, and the dark side's whispers gnawed at his resolve. He reached out with the Force, seeking clarity. Instead, a presence found him, gentle, ancient, familiar. A voice spoke, calm and clear. "Anakin!" He opened his eyes to a glowing figure, ethereal and serene, Qui-Gon Jinn. "Master Qui-Gon!" Anakin gasped, stunned. "How? I've merged with the Force," Qui-Gon said, his tone soothing. "I've watched you, Anakin. Your path has been dark, but you're returning to the light." Tears stung Anakin's eyes, guilt warring with hope. "I've failed so much, Master. Can I ever atone?" "Redemption isn't about undoing what's done," Qui-Gon replied. "It's about the choices you make now. You're on that road." Anakin's voice broke. "Palpatine's too powerful. I don't know if I can stop him." "You're not alone," Qui-Gon said. "The Force flows through you, and your allies stand with you. Trust them, and yourself." Peace settled over Anakin, the darkness receding. "Thank you, Master." Qui-Gon faded, his parting words a whisper. "May the Force be with you, always." Anakin sat in the stillness, renewed. He wasn't fighting alone, and that truth fortified him for the battles ahead. The fleet regrouped in a distant sector hidden from Imperial eyes. On the Defiant, the air buzzed with cautious hope, tempered by Palpatine's threat. Anakin roamed the corridors, restless when voices drifted from a side room. He paused, recognizing Voss and Ayla Sakura, a Togruta Jedi. "Can we trust him?" Ayla's tone was sharp. "After all he's done." Voss sighed. "It's tough, I know, but he's different now. I've seen it." "Different?" Ayla's scoff cut deep. "He was Vader. He butchered our order. What if he turns again?" Anakin's chest tightened, her words a mirror to his fears. He couldn't fault her. His past was a wound on them all. Yet the sting fueled his resolve. "He's fighting for his family now," Voss said. "That's a tether stronger than hate." Ayla hesitated. "I hope so. For all of us." Anakin slipped away, their doubt a spur to prove his worth, not just to them, but to himself. On Coruscant in the Imperial Palace's depths, Palpatine brooded on his throne, and his eyes burning with malice. Starkiller knelt before him, unmasked, his face a mask of fury. "You let Skywalker slip away," Palpatine hissed. Starkiller bowed deeper. "He's grown stronger, my lord, but I'll bring him down." Palpatine's smile was a predator's gleam. Perhaps Force isn't the answer yet. A hologram flared to life. Luke and Leia laughing in the rebel camp, innocent and unaware. "His children," Palpatine purred. "His heart's weakness." Starkiller's eyes lit with cruel understanding. "We use them to break him." "Exactly," Palpatine said. "Find them and he'll crumble." The image vanished, and Palpatine reclined, his mind a web of malice. Anakin had defied him once, but the Emperor's patience was a weapon honed over decades. The twins were the key, and through them Skywalker would fall. Or serve. The rebel fleet hung in the void, a fragile constellation of ships adrift in an uncharted sector of the galaxy. The Defiant, the rebellion's flagship, floated at the heart of the formation, its hull battered from countless skirmishes yet still defiant against the darkness. Inside, the air thrummed with a tension so thick it seemed to cling to the walls. The rebels had tasted victory at Ord Mantell, destroying an Imperial weapons depot in a daring raid, but that triumph now felt like a distant memory. Emperor Palpatine's words haunted them. "Your rebellion's end." The Empire was hunting them, and the noose was tightening. Anakin Skywalker stood in the war room, his tall frame silhouetted against the flickering light of a holographic map. His hands were clasped behind his back, his prosthetic fingers clicking faintly as he studied the display. Red blips pulsed across the hologram, marking Imperial patrols creeping closer to their position. For weeks the rebels had danced on the edge of detection, slipping through hyperspace lanes and hiding in the shadows of nebulae. But their luck was fraying, and Anakin could feel it, like a cold wind brushing the back of his neck. He's out there, he thought, the image of Palpatine's twisted face flashing in his mind, watching, waiting. A gentle hand settled on his shoulder, pulling him from the abyss of his thoughts. Padme Amidala stood beside him, her brown eyes reflecting both exhaustion and an unyielding fire. "You've been here all night," she said softly, her voice a steady anchor in the storm. "You need to rest." Anakin shook his head, his gaze locked on the map. "I can't. Not when they're this close." She stepped in front of him, her small frame blocking the hologram, forcing him to meet her stare. "You're no good to anyone if you collapse, Anakin. We need you sharp. The twins need you." The mention of Luke and Leia softened the hard lines of his face. He exhaled, the tension in his shoulders easing just a fraction. "You're right," he admitted, his voice low. "But every time I close my eyes, I see him. Palpatine. He's planning something. I can feel it in the Force." Padme's expression tightened, but her resolve didn't waver. "Then we'll face it together. But you can't carry this alone." He pulled her into his arms, resting his chin atop her head, breathing in the familiar scent of her hair. Her strength, her unshakable belief in him, was the tether that kept him from falling back into the darkness. "I don't deserve you," he murmured. She tilted her head up, her lips brushing his in a fleeting kiss. "You do. And you will." Their quiet moment shattered as the war room's doors hissed open. Obi-Wan Kenobi strode in, his robe swishing with purpose, his face carved with lines of worry. "We've intercepted a transmission," he said, his tone sharp and urgent. "The Empire's mobilizing a fleet. They're heading for the Meridian sector, straight for us." Anakin's blood turned to ice. "How did they find us?" Obi-Wan hesitated, his blue eyes flicking to Padme before settling on Anakin. "There's a traitor among us." The word struck like a blaster bolt, reverberating through the room. Padme's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes widening in shock. "A traitor? Who?" "We don't know yet," Obi-Wan replied, his voice grim. "But the transmission originated from within the fleet. Someone's feeding the Empire our coordinates." Anakin's mind spun, rage and betrayal igniting within him. "We need to find them now, before it's too late." Obi-Wan nodded. "I've ordered a lockdown. No one leaves the Defiant until we've uncovered the truth." Padme stepped forward, her voice steady despite the fear shimmering in her eyes. "I'll coordinate with the security teams. We'll search every corner of the ship." Anakin gripped her arm gently, his touch a silent plea. "Be careful. If there's a traitor, they'll be desperate." She met his gaze, her determination unshaken. "I will. You focus on preparing the fleet. If the Empire's coming, we need to be ready." As she left the room, her steps purposeful, Anakin turned to Obi-Wan, his expression darkening. "We can't let them catch us off guard. We need a plan." Obi-Wan's eyes narrowed, his mind already working. "We'll set a trap, draw the Imperial fleet into an ambush, but it's risky, especially with the traitor still loose." Anakin's fist clenched, his knuckles whitening. "We don't have a choice. We fight or we die." The Defiant buzzed with activity as rebel soldiers fanned out across the ship, their blasters set to stun, their faces taut with suspicion. Anakin moved there through the corridors like a shadow, his senses sharpened by the Force, searching for any flicker of deceit. He reached out, probing the minds around him, but the traitor was cunning, their presence masked by fear or resolve, or perhaps something darker. In the medical bay, Padme oversaw the search, her sharp eyes scanning the crew. These were people she'd fought beside, bled with, friends and comrades who'd risked everything for the rebellion. The idea that one of them could betray that trust gnawed at her, a cold knot in her stomach. A young medic approached, her hands trembling as she handed Padme a datapad. "Senator, we found this hidden in the supply closet." Padme's heart sank as she scanned the screen, a series of encrypted messages transmitted to an Imperial frequency. Her voice was tight as she asked, "Who had access to this area?" The medic swallowed hard, her voice barely above a whisper. "Only a few of us. Me, the other medics, and Captain Wren." Padme's breath caught in her throat. Captain Wren, a grizzled veteran of the Clone Wars, a man who joined the rebellion after surviving the Order of 66. She'd trusted him implicitly. Could he really be the one? "Find him!" she ordered, her tone brooking no argument. "Bring him to the brig!" As the medic scurried off, Padme's comlink crackled to life. Anakin's voice burst through, laced with panic. "Padme, we've got a problem. The twins. They're not in their quarters." Her world tilted. "What? Where are they?" "We don't know," Anakin said, his words strained. "I've got teams searching the ship. Stay calm. We'll find them." But calm was a distant dream. Padme's mind flooded with dread, images of Luke and Leia in the hands of a traitor, or worse, the Empire. She bolted from the medbay, her heart hammering as she joined the desperate search. Anakin tore through the Defiant, his fear for his children a living thing clawing at his chest. The dark side surged within him, feeding on his terror, whispering promises of power to save them. He shoved it down, clinging to the light, reaching out with the Force to find his twins. A faint echo pulsed back, small, frightened but alive. He followed it to the lower decks where the rumble of the engines drowned out all but the loudest sounds. There, in a darkened corner near a maintenance hatch, he found them. Luke and Leia, huddled together, their tiny faces streaked with tears. Relief crashed over him like a wave as he dropped to his knees, pulling them into his arms. "It's okay," he whispered, his voice trembling. "Daddy's here!" But as he stood to carry them to safety, a figure emerged from the shadows. Captain Wren, his blaster leveled at Anakin's chest. "Don't move, Skywalker!" Anakin's eyes narrowed, his grip tightening protectively on the twins. "Wren, you're the traitor!" Wren's face was a mask of anguish, his eyes haunted. "I didn't want this, but the Empire, they have my family, they'll kill them if I don't cooperate." Anakin's fury flared, but he forced his voice to remain steady. "You think betraying us will save them? Palpatine doesn't honor deals." Wren's hand shook, the blaster wavering. "I have no choice! Step aside, or I'll—" A stun bolt cut him off, slamming into his back and sending him sprawling to the deck. Padme stepped into view, her blaster still smoking, her expression colder than Hoth's ice plains. "No one threatens my family," she said, her voice ablade. Anakin exhaled, a mix of relief and awe washing over him. "You're amazing," he said, pulling her into a one-armed embrace while cradling the twins. She pressed a quick kiss to his cheek, then took Leia from his arms. "Let's get them somewhere safe. The fleet needs us." With Ren in custody, the rebellion moved swiftly. Anakin and Obi-Wan crafted a desperate plan: lure the Imperial fleet into a nearby nebula, where the rebels' nimble ships could outmaneuver the lumbering Star Destroyers. It was a long shot, but their only hope. As the Imperial Armada dropped out of hyperspace, the rebels broadcast a fake distress signal, baiting the enemy into the nebula's swirling clouds. The Defiant led the charge, its cannons roaring as it darted through the treacherous haze. Anakin stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the view screen, his heart a drumbeat in his chest. "Now!" he shouted, and the rebel fleet sprang the trap, emerging from the Reno Nebula's depths to encircle the Imperials. The void erupted in chaos. TIE fighters shrieked through the gas clouds, met by X-wings in a deadly ballet of fire and steel. The Defiant rocked under enemy barrages, its shields flickering, but it held. Anakin gripped the console, his breath shallow. "We can do this!" A cold, slithering presence invaded his mind, Palpatine's voice dripping with malice. "You cannot win, Anakin. Your rebellion is doomed." Anakin gritted his teeth, pushing back against the intrusion. "Get out of my head!" he snarled. The battle stretched on, the nebula aglow with the fire of exploding ships. Gradually, the rebels gained ground, their agility overwhelming the Imperial's numbers. One by one, the Star Destroyers succumbed, their hulks drifting lifelessly through the mist. When the last enemy vessel fled into hyperspace, a ragged cheer rose across the fleet. They had survived. For now. The victory was hollow. The rebellion had bought time, but the cost was steep. Ships crippled, lives lost, and the knowledge that the Empire would return with greater fury. Anakin felt the weight of it as he stood in their quarters, watching Padme tuck the twins into their cribs. She glanced up, her eyes shadowed with fatigue. "We made it," she said, her voice soft. He wrapped his arms around her, resting his chin on her shoulder. "We did, but it's not over." She turned in his embrace, her hands resting on his chest. "But we're still here. That's something." He kissed her forehead, a surge of love and resolve flooding through him. "We'll keep fighting, for them." Their moment was interrupted by a beep from the comlink. Obi-Wan's voice crackled through. "Anakin, we've received a transmission. It's from Fulcrum." Anakin frowned. Fulcrum, their enigmatic ally, had guided them through countless dangers. "Patch it through." A hologram flickered to life, revealing a cloaked figure, their face obscured. "Congratulations on your victory, Skywalker, but I bring dire news. The Emperor has a new plan to crush your rebellion." Anakin's gut tightened. "What is it?" Fulcrum's tone was grave. "He's targeting your children. Palpatine believes that by capturing Luke and Leia, he can force you to surrender or turn you back to the dark side." Padme gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Anakin's vision tunneled, rage and fear warring within him. "He'll never touch them," he growled. Fulcrum inclined their head. "I've sent coordinates to a safe haven where you can hide them, but you must act quickly. The Empire is already moving." The hologram winked out, leaving Anakin and Padme in stunned silence. He turned to her, his eyes blazing. "We'll protect them, no matter what." She nodded, her own determination mirroring his. "We will." The rebellion fled to Fulcrum's coordinates, a storm-racked planet in the outer rim, its surface shrouded in perpetual tempests. It was a brutal refuge, but its isolation offered a slim chance at safety. Anakin threw himself into establishing a new base, his every thought consumed by the threat to his children. One night, as the wind howled outside, he sat by the twins' cribs, watching their peaceful faces. He brushed a lock of hair from Leia's forehead, his heart aching with a love so fierce it hurt. A soft knock broke his reverie. Obi-Wan entered, his expression dour. "Anakin, we've detected an Imperial probe droid in the system. They're searching for us." Anakin's jaw tightened. "How long do we have?" "Not long," Obi-Wan said. "We need to prepare for an assault." Anakin stood, his resolve steeling. "Then we'll make our stand here. This ends now." As the rebels fortified their defenses, Anakin sought out Yoda. The ancient Jedi Master sat in a small chamber meditating amidst the chaos, his presence a quiet island of calm. Master Yoda, Anakin said, kneeling before him, Palpatine's coming for my children. I don't know if I can protect them. Yoda's eyes opened, wise and kind. Fear, you must release, young Skywalker. Trust in the Force and in yourself. Strong you are, stronger than you know. Anakin nodded, drawing strength from the words. I won't let him win. The Imperial fleet descended like a plague, star destroyers blotting out the stormy sky. On the ground, the rebels braced themselves, their makeshift defenses dwarfed by the enemy's might. Anakin stood at the forefront, his lightsaber ignited, its blue glow a beacon in the tempest. Obi-Wan, Yoda, and a handful of surviving Jedi flanked him, their faces set with grim resolve. TIE fighters roared down, their lasers tearing into the earth. The rebels fired back, their blasters and turrets lighting up the night. Anakin moved like a tempest himself, his saber a blur as he deflected shots and felled stormtroopers. Above, Palpatine's flagship, the Executor, loomed, its dark presence pressing against the Force. Anakin felt the Emperor's malice, a suffocating weight. A shuttle landed amidst the fray, disgorging Starkiller, Palpatine's enforcer, his red saber blazing, followed by a squad of elite guards. Anakin faced them, his pulse pounding. This ends here, he shouted. Starkiller sneered. You're a fool, Skywalker. The Emperor will have your children, and you'll be nothing. Anakin channeled his anger into focus. You'll have to go through me. Their duel was a storm of light and dark, saber strikes ringing like thunder. Starkiller was relentless, but Anakin fought with a clarity he'd never known, the light side burning bright within him. With a final, powerful blow, he disarmed Starkiller, his blade at the Enforcer's throat. Yield! Anakin demanded. Starkiller laughed bitterly. You think this is over? The Emperor has already won! A chilling voice cut through the Force. Anakin! Anakin turned to see Palpatine descending from the shuttle, his yellow eyes glowing with malevolence. You've fought well, my apprentice, but it's time to end this. I'm not your apprentice, Anakin spat. Palpatine's smile was a grotesque mockery. Oh, but you are. With a flick of his hand, Palpatine unleashed Force lightning, blue bolts arcing toward Anakin. He blocked with his saber, the energy crackling against the blade, driving him to his knees. Anakin! Padme's voice pierced the agony. She fired her blaster at Palpatine, the shots deflecting off his shields but breaking his focus. Anakin surged forward, his saber slashing through Palpatine's defenses. Their duel was a whirlwind, the Emperor's power clashing with Anakin's resolve. With a primal roar, Anakin struck, his blade piercing Palpatine's chest. The Emperor's eyes widened, a gasp escaping him before he collapsed, his body dissolving into nothingness. Anakin staggered back, panting, relief flooding him. Palpatine was dead. But the battle wasn't over. From the Executor, ships launched toward the base, targeting the civilians, the children. Anakin's heart stopped. Luke and Leia... He ran, his legs burning, reaching the base as Padme battled stormtroopers. Starkiller emerged, his saber raised. You took everything from me, he snarled. Now I'll take everything from you. He lunged at Padme, but Yoda intervened, his green blade flashing. Protect the children, you must, Yoda said. Go, Anakin. Anakin raced inside, finding Luke and Leia safe. He held them close, whispering, Daddy's here! Outside, the rebels rallied, driving the Imperials back. With Palpatine gone, the enemy faltered, retreating into hyperspace. The storm quieted, victory dawning. The rebellion rejoiced, Palpatine's death sparking uprisings across the galaxy. On a hill overlooking the base, Anakin stood with Padme, the twins in their arms, the sunset painting the sky gold. We did it, Padme said, awe in her voice. Anakin smiled. We did. Now we rebuild. Obi-Wan joined them, his eyes bright. The Force is in balance, thanks to you. Anakin shook his head. Thanks to all of us. We're a family. The road ahead would be long, but for now they had peace. And each other. The sun rose over the tranquil lakes of Naboo, casting a golden glow across the shimmering waters and illuminating the elegant spires of Theed Palace. It was a new dawn, both in the literal light bathing the landscape, and in the metaphorical sense, for a galaxy emerging from the shadow of tyranny. The defeat of Emperor Palpatine, a victory hard won by the rebellion led by Anakin Skywalker and Padme Amidala, had shattered the Empire's iron grip, offering the promise of peace and renewal. In the palace gardens, Anakin walked hand in hand with Padme, their steps slow and deliberate as they savored a rare moment of calm. Ahead of them, their twins, Luke and Leia, now 6 months old, gurgled happily in a hovering pram guided by a gentle nudge of the Force from their father. The lush greenery, vibrant flowers, and distant songs of native birds painted a scene of serenity, a stark contrast to the war-torn worlds they had endured for so long. Anakin's gaze lingered on his children, his heart swelling with pride and a fierce protectiveness. They were the embodiment of the hope he and Padme had fought to secure, a future untainted by the darkness he had once teetered on the edge of embracing. Yet despite the victory and the joy before him, a shadow lingered in his mind. Memories of his past actions, moments of anger and destruction fueled by Palpatine's manipulations, clawed at his peace. Padme, ever attuned to his emotions, squeezed his hand. "You're thinking about it again, aren't you?" Her voice was soft but carried the weight of understanding. He sighed, his eyes dropping to the stone path beneath their feet. "I can't help it, Padme. I did so much harm. Even though I didn't fall completely, the scars I left on the galaxy, on myself, they're still there." She stopped, turning to face him, her expression fierce yet tender. "Anakin, listen to me. You saved the galaxy. You stood against Palpatine when it mattered most, and because of you, countless worlds are free. Yes, you made mistakes. Who hasn't in this war? But you've shown strength and courage beyond what anyone could have asked. You're not defined by your past. You're defined by what you choose to do now." Her words pierced through the fog of guilt, a soothing balm to wounds he'd carried too long. He leaned down, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. "Thank you," he whispered, voice thick with gratitude. "I don't know what I'd do without you." She smiled, her eyes shining with love. "You'll never have to find out." Their quiet moment was broken by the sound of approaching footsteps. "Master Anakin, Senator Amidala," Obi-Wan Kenobi called. His familiar voice warm as he emerged from a shaded archway, robes swaying in the breeze. "I hope I'm not intruding." Anakin grinned, clasping Obi-Wan's hand in a firm shake. "Not at all. It's good to see you, old friend." Obi-Wan's eyes crinkled with a smile. "I bring news. The last Imperial holdouts have surrendered. The galaxy is, at long last, at peace." Padme's face lit up, relief and joy mingling in her expression. "That's wonderful! We can finally start rebuilding." "Indeed," Obi-Wan agreed. "And there's more. The surviving Jedi have gathered on Coruscant. They're planning to establish a new council, and they want you, Anakin, to be part of it." Anakin's breath caught, and the weight of the offer settling over him. To be welcomed back into the Jedi fold, to shape its future after all he'd done, was a redemption he hadn't dared dream of. I don't know what to say." Obi-Wan rested a hand on his shoulder, his gaze steady. "Say yes. You've earned this, Anakin. Your journey, through light and dark, gives you a perspective we need. You can guide the next generation in ways I never could." Tears pricked at Anakin's eyes, but he blinked them back, nodding. "Thank you, Obi-Wan. I won't let you down." "I know you won't," Obi-Wan replied, his pride evident. In that moment, a sense of closure washed over Anakin. This was his chance to atone, to ensure the Jedi Order rose anew, free from the rigidity that had once blinded it, and the corruption that had nearly destroyed it. While Anakin turned his focus to the Jedi, Padme threw herself into the political aftermath of the Empire's fall. The galaxy was a fractured mosaic, its pieces yearning for unity but wary of new shackles. As a former senator with a reputation for integrity, she took on the monumental task of forging a new galactic alliance, one rooted in democracy and equality. Her days became a whirlwind of meetings, traveling between planets to negotiate with leaders still reeling from decades of oppression. On Alderaan, she met with Bail Organa, whose quiet strength bolstered her resolve. On Kashyyyk, she listened to the Wookiees' roars of gratitude for their liberation, promising aid to rebuild their treetop cities. One of her toughest challenges came on Mandalore. The warrior planet's leaders, clad in Beskar armor, greeted her with suspicion, their pride bruised by years of Imperial subjugation. In a durasteel chamber lit by flickering torches, Padme faced their stern matriarch, Kale Vizsla. "We've heard promises before, Senator," Kale said, her voice sharp as a vibroblade. "The Republic failed us and the Empire crushed us. Why should we trust your alliance?" Padme met her gaze unflinchingly. "Because this isn't the Republic or the Empire. We're building something new. A coalition where every world has a voice. I won't deny the past failures, but I offer you a future where Mandalore stands as an equal, not a subject. We'll provide resources to rebuild, and you'll have autonomy and to govern as you see fit." Kyle's eyes narrowed, assessing. "And if we refuse, then you're free to walk away," Padme said simply. "But together we're stronger. The galaxy needs Mandalore's strength, and Mandalore deserves a chance to thrive." After a long silence, Kale nodded. "We'll join, but we'll hold you to your word." Padme exhaled, a small victory won through patience and conviction. Meanwhile, Anakin and Obi-Wan journeyed to Coruscant, where the Jedi Temple's ruins stood as a somber reminder of Order 66. Yet amid the rubble, hope flickered. Surviving Jedi, some who had hidden, others who had fought alongside the rebellion, gathered to reclaim their legacy. Among them was Ahsoka Tano, Anakin's former Padawan. Her Togruta headtails swayed as she approached, a grin breaking through her usual composure. "Good to see you, Master." Anakin pulled her into a tight embrace, warmth flooding his chest. "I've missed you, Snips." She laughed, stepping back. "Someone's got to keep you from getting too serious." Together they began restoring the temple, clearing debris and repairing what they could. Anakin found purpose in training the younglings, many of them orphans of the war. One afternoon he knelt beside a Twi'lek girl struggling to lift a pebble with the Force. "I can't do it," she muttered, frustration creasing her blue face. "You can," Anakin said gently. "Feel the Force, not just with your mind, but with your heart. It's not about forcing it. It's about trusting it." She closed her eyes, breathing deeply, and the pebble wobbled upward. Her delighted gasp brought a smile to Anakin's face. In these small victories he saw a path to redemption. Though peace had come, Anakin knew he couldn't fully embrace it without confronting his origins. Weeks before the Galactic Alliance's founding ceremony, he felt a pull to Tatooine, the desert world where his life began. Leaving Padme and the twins on Naboo, he piloted a small ship to the sandy expanse, landing near the Lars homestead. The twin suns blazed overhead as he trudged to his mother's grave, a simple stone marker in the dunes. Kneeling, he traced its edges, memories of Shmi's kindness and sacrifice flooding back. "Mother," he said, voice breaking, "I'm sorry for leaving, for not saving you. I've tried to make things right, to be the man you believed I could be." A breeze stirred the sand, and Anakin felt a presence. Looking up, he saw Shmi's ghostly form, her eyes gentle and proud. "My son," she said, her voice a whisper on the wind, "you've grown beyond my wildest hopes. I'm so proud of you." Tears streamed down his face as he reached for her, his hand passing through light. "I miss you." "I'm always with you," she replied, fading as the suns dipped low. "Keep walking in the light." Rising, Anakin felt a weight lift, a forgiveness he hadn't realized he needed. As he returned to his ship, he carried a renewed resolve to honor her memory. On Coruscant, the Galactic Alliance was officially born. The rebuilt Senate chamber buzzed with representatives from across the stars, their diversity a testament to the unity Padme had fought for. She stood at the podium, regal in a flowing gown, her voice resonating with strength. "Today, we step into a new era," she declared. "We've faced tyranny and despair, but we've emerged united. The Galactic Alliance is a promise that every being, from the core to the outer rim, will have a voice and a future." Applause thundered, and Anakin, holding Luke and Leia in the front row, felt a tear escape. This was their victory, their dream realized. That night, back on Naboo, the family strolled through the gardens. Anakin paused as a familiar presence brushed his senses. Qui-Gon Jinn's Force ghost appeared beneath a tree, serene and approving. "You've restored balance, Anakin," Qui-Gon said. "The galaxy heals because of you." "I had help," Anakin replied, glancing at Padme and the twins. Qui-Gon nodded. "The Force will always guide you." As the ghost faded, Anakin joined Padme on a balcony, the twins playing nearby. The sunset painted the sky in hues of fire and gold, and he took her hand. "I never thought we'd see this," he murmured. "I always believed in you," she said, resting against him. He kissed her temple, heart full. The road ahead held challenges, but with his family he was ready. The Jedi Temple's training grounds hummed with life. Younglings sparred with wooden sabers, their laughter mingling with the clack of practice. Luke and Leia, now 6, are trained under Anakin's watchful eye, their Force abilities blossoming. "Focus, Luke!" Anakin called. "Feel the flow!" Luke struck cleanly, Leia matching him with graceful precision. After the family picnicked in the gardens, joined by Obi-Wan and Ahsoka. Leia levitated a pebble, giggling as Anakin caught it. "Impressive," he said. "You'll both be great Jedi." As the sun set, Anakin looked at his loved ones, gratitude overwhelming him. The galaxy thrived, the Alliance stood strong, and the Jedi rose anew. The past shadows were gone, replaced by light and love. The Force was with them, always.